Right now, I am in Louisville, Kentucky, and as you can see, it's a little bit chilly today, a little bit snowy, and we are here for the annual Show of Shows. If you don't know what the Show of Shows is, think of it as kind of like a Comic-Con for military history collectors. This is the largest military collector show in the United States, and people buy and sell things here. Eric Dorr always comes here every year and buys artifacts to resell to raise money for the museum. And even if you don't buy and sell things, there are just a crazy number of historic artifacts that pop up here at this show every year. So anyway, we're going to dodge in. We're going to get out of the cold and see what they have this year at the Show of Shows. All right, well, we just rolled into the show here, and here's what we've got going on today. In addition to all of the artifacts and all the other cool things that we are going to see, well, back here at the back table, I've got Andy Biggio, who's the author of The Rifle. Got a couple of World War II veterans with us, who we might talk to a little bit later on. And then further down, got Eric Dorr. He's signing copies of Fierce Valor. And also with us is Dale Dye. So Dale Dye has been in all kinds of different movies. I was military advisor for Platoon, Band of Brothers, Saving Private Ryan, and a number of other productions. So anyway, lots going on here today. As we are walking the floor here, just kind of looking for items that jump out and catch my eye. And here is definitely one thing that has caught my eye. A dadgum bazooka from World War II. It never ceases to amaze me coming to this show, the artifacts that are unearthed. Now, I would love to be taking this home with me today, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. But anyway, you can see it also has the original box here it says 8 rockets practice on there. But yeah, that's one of the cooler items I've seen.
This is a 29th Division helmet that was worn on June 6, 1944, the invasion of France at Normandy. And it's an interesting story with this one. It is, as found, you can see it shows a little worse for the wear. It was purchased in 1985 for $100. That's how little some of the World War II stuff was worth back in the 80s. And the interesting thing is, when we got it, we noticed that scratched into the bottom, it looked like there were a couple of characters. And when we examined it under a flashlight, we found that it was actually the laundry number of a soldier, and it was P-7012. We had one of our researchers look into it, and we were amazed to find that it actually belonged to a gentleman from Virginia who was killed in action. He was in the 116th, and he was killed in December of 1944 by a bouncing Betty mine. So it is very unlikely that he was wearing this helmet at that time. When the forces reached the beach, they were under tremendous machine gun and artillery fire. And men were running around, they were dropping their rifles, they were dropping their helmets, and the officers were screaming at them to replace the equipment as fast as they could with whatever was laying around. So my theory on this is this was actually lost on June 6, picked up by another member of the 29th Division that needed a helmet, and was actually worn by 2 people. We can't prove that, but just based on the evidence of how he was killed and where he was killed, it wouldn't make sense that the helmet would have stayed with him throughout his time in service. So this helmet had 2 lives. We know, like I said, that we know the June 6th life, but beyond that, probably nothing else.
Just walking along here, it's another item that caught my eye. This is a Japanese 1,000-stitch belt from World War II, and it's got a pretty interesting bit of artwork here in the middle of it. I've seen artwork before that's like stitched in the form of a tiger, but yeah, this one is has been painted on or drawn on. Yeah, that's really cool. All right, so I'm, of course, into the history of the First World War, and I'm here at Mike Willie's booth right now, and he always has a bunch of really good World War I stuff that he digs up. And what we are looking at here is the uniform that's part of a larger grouping to a pilot who was in the 22nd and 49th Aero Squadrons, and you can see like all of the insignia is original, and he has a whole bunch of paperwork and photos and things like that that are attached to this guy. But yeah, really a unique piece here, and also something that is exceptionally unique is this old poster. So you can see Norma Talmadge. She was a vaudeville performer and went to the front or went over to Europe to do like a show for the troops, and 70th Division specifically, as you can see there on the poster. And anyway, this poster was made to advertise that event. This was found in Massachusetts in a house renovation. They tore down the wall, and this was rolled up and inside the wall. So kind of like a little time capsule in there. But yeah, really, really neat piece.
It's a World War I engraving that was done in 1917. It's signed by the artist there, Kolb, and our good friend Google revealed that that's likely Alphonse Kolb, who was a German immigrant to the United States. He became an American citizen in 1918, and this engraving is dated 1917. And one of the cool things about it is he repurposed an engraver's plate and used that as the basis for his relief sculpting. So that's really cool.
All right, so we've been out here walking the floor, and here's the deal with this show is you never know when you're going to run into somebody famous like this guy.
I was thinking I ran into somebody famous.
yeah, not really. What do you think so far? This is your first time at the show?
Yeah, oh, it's incredible. I should have brought more money.
What you picked up?
So this is a photograph, period photograph of Bill Taylor, who was part of the 95th Aero Squadron, recipient of the Distinguished Service Cross for action when he rescued his wingman shooting down a German in May of 1918. He was just 19 years old when he was shot down and killed in Saint Mihiel in September of 1918, just a few months before the end of the war.
Any chance we'll be seeing this again on a future video?
This is going to be going with me to Saint Mihiel when I film a series there later this year.
Awesome. Just walking along and happened to see this trunk. Now, I always like pieces, with veteran art on them, and this one on this trunk is exceptional. This is from a guy by the name of Harold Fraser, and here you can see that he was a member of the Flying Tigers, and did a little decorating on his trunk. Yeah, that's cool. Right, now, as I mentioned earlier, one of the guys who we have back here with us today is Dale Dye, who you probably recognize from Band of Brothers, played Colonel Sink, and was also in Saving Private Ryan and a number of other movies. And he wrote the foreword to Eric and Jared Frederick's book, Fierce Valor. So he's been back here signing autographs, as you can see, meeting a lot of people today. But we're going to see if we can pull him aside for just a moment and just chat with us for a few seconds.
We're at the Show of Shows with the legendary Captain Dale Dye. He was here signing the book Fierce Valor that my co-author Jared and I wrote, and Dale wrote the foreword, and he was also signing some photos.
And one of the neat things about it, really, I mean, I've never been here before. Eric shoehorned me into coming down here and seeing all this great stuff. It's literally overwhelming. But the neat thing about it to me is that with Eric and a few other people that really know the story behind this book. He asked me to write the foreword for it, and I did that. And it represents one of the biggest enigmas, one of the biggest mysteries, really, of the whole Band of Brothers World War II experience. And that is, of course, did he or did he not, Captain Ron Spears, shoot some prisoners? Nobody can do anything except speculate. And I remember I told Eric when we were first doing this, I said, look, I had dinner with him in Paris. And I asked his wife, I said, look, will you just tell me, just give me the inside story. Did he really? She said, listen, he won't tell me, so he's not likely to tell you. But it's those continuing stories, the Ron Spears stories, and the stories that are brought up all the time in the museum. The business of actually keeping this history alive, as Eric does. And the Gettysburg Museum is just a place that you can go and ponder, contemplate those mysteries. And those things, I think, are probably among the greatest challenges and the greatest enjoyments of studying World War II.
What would you say is one of your fondest memories with the Geist-Measy Company?
Oh, it has to be. If you're talking about the real veterans,
Yeah.
as opposed to the actors, it has to be being assigned as the babysitter for Bill Garnier and Babe Heffron in Paris. I mean, I was literally overwhelmed. You couldn't chase those guys down. They were both 85 or 90. But they were constantly mobbed by young French women, and they were just adored. It was like watching the liberation of Paris every night. So I'll never forget that.
So while I'm here, I want to show something else. We were just talking about Ron Spears. Well, Eric brought with him some of Ron Spears' items. So here is the Luger that Ron Spears brought back after his service in Europe. Of course, there is the copy, the very last copy under glass of Fierce Valor. And then we also have his photo and ribbon rack. Here is the Silver Star, Purple Heart, and Bronze Star of Ron Spears, and then also his ID. So yeah, a lot of times you have to go to the Gettysburg Museum of History in order to see this stuff, but we want to make history as accessible to as many people as possible, which is why we do the videos, and also bring things out to the public when we can.
So I have an announcement to make. Number one, we're out of books. This is somebody's that's already bought it and they left it here temporarily. So if you want to buy more of them, you have to go to the website, GettysburgMuseumofHistory.com. But the big announcement is Captain Dye has agreed to come on to the board for the Gettysburg Museum of History as an advisor. So that means he's going to call the shots and help me make this into the greatest easy company exhibit in the world. And I thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
I appreciate
it. It's really a delight. There are a few things you do. You make great motion pictures, you make great television shows to keep the spirit alive, but nothing keeps it alive as much as a museum like the Gettysburg Museum. And so when Eric asked me, he said, look, would you consider coming aboard? It was an easy answer. And the answer wasn't no. It was not yes, but hell yes. And here I am trying to do it. I hope I can do a good job for it.
One of the things that's great about coming to this show is you're going to see all kinds of things that you wouldn't typically think of in the collecting world. Like, I'm not really a watch collector, but here's a whole collection of watches from World War II. And also right next to it is another interesting item. These are all pieces of sweetheart jewelry. Now, sweetheart jewelry is something that we haven't really focused on much in the American Artifact series, but they're really neat pieces. These are home front items that wives and girlfriends and mothers and sisters would have to show their support for their loved one who was serving in World War II. So this is like for someone who would have been an engineer. You see a couple here that say mother on them. So maybe a soldier or sailor or Marine would get these as a gift for their loved one. Here's one for medical. But yeah, neat pieces.
Hi, JD. Thank you for stepping over to the table. Kelly Hicks, SS Steel. We're at the Show of Shows 2025, and it's one of the bigger shows I've seen for a long time. So I wanted to just take an opportunity to show you one of the items I have on the table for sale here. This is a German Waffen-SS assault gunner's wrapper, they call it. It's a wraparound type of jacket, short cut. And it's the field gray were the Sturmgeschütz, or the assault gun. So they were mobile artillery that could take out tanks and things like that. And this one is anti-tank. So he wears Panzer piping, but since it's field gray for assault gun, that means he was anti-tank. So Panzerabwehr. Iron Cross Second Class Award in the loop, in the buttonhole rather. Loops for probably a general assault badge, possibly a Panzer assault badge. He's the rank of Lance Corporal, hand stitched on when he got promoted. The sleeve eagle is when this was made, the eagle was applied. And it has the RZM style SS matching runic and rank tabs. So all nice, sewn one time, never touched, nothing altered since the war. And I just want to show you a little bit about the design of these things. In a imitation silk lining, because the Germans were experimenting with materials, they used a lot of ersatz. This is how you'll see the ink markings often. They often were smudged, or they would soak into the material a little bit, and that's fairly characteristic. This one has the hooks for belt loops, and to wear a belt with it. These tabs button it to these buttons, and then this flap buttons it closed. Overall, this jacket has medium, I would call it medium service wear, possibly combat, but you see the patina on different areas where it's had exposure to either maybe some fuel, a lot of sunshine, things like that. But this is a nice worn example of the SS assault gun wrapper.
Awesome, thanks, man.
Thank you.
That's what I like about this show. You're always, people are buying and selling, but you're doing more learning than anything.
So we're at Jason Burmeister's booth at the Show of Shows, Jason Burmeister Militaria. And he's a good friend, and we've featured him before on the channel. I work with him from time to time on higher end pieces. And we were really hoping we would get to interview him this time. And he declined. He's camera shy. Poor Jason. But one of these days he said he's going to do it. But anyway, I have to do it. But he has an exquisite item here, and it's so over the top that I'm going to need a cheat sheet to help with all the information here. So this is a pilot's badge that was given to Hermann Goering by the Bulgarian Czar Berks III. Excuse me. That's why I have a cheat sheet here. It is diamond crusted, and it was given to Hermann Goering on the occasion of his wedding. It's a faithful representation of the regular badge, but executed with enamel, gold, rubies, and diamonds. The piece is 7.8 centimeters high and 4.8 centimeters wide and weighs 72.48 grams. The badge has a total of 265 diamonds of different sizes and 28 rubies. So this is a really over-the-top badge, and fitting maybe for royalty in Europe at the time, but also Hermann Goering, because he thought of himself as royalty. He was a German aristocrat before the war, but as most people watching the channel know, he was the number 2 Nazi under Hitler's regime, ran the Luftwaffe Air Force and some of the other branches as well. But he was considered the number 2 man. He was very outgoing, very likable character to the people in his inner circle, and he was also very flashy. He liked to wear things like that. So the other interesting part of this story, besides the craftsmanship in the actual badge, is it was captured by an American soldier or taken, more likely. We don't know where it was taken from. We assume at the end of the war in Berchtesgaden there was the train car. He had a train car there with a lot of loot in it, and there was also a bunch of stuff sealed up in the tunnel under his house. And it was called Aladdin's Cave. So the unit that opened up Aladdin's Cave was 1269 Combat Engineers. We don't know if this man was in that unit, but we assume there's a good chance he was. And this man's story is interesting. He took this badge home, and in, I think it was September, he took it to a local jewelry store and attempted to have it appraised or perhaps sell it. The people at the jewelry store became suspicious and alerted the police. He was arrested. The piece was confiscated, and the FBI was brought into the investigation. So the way war trophies worked were they weren't allowed to take valuables, jewelry, things like that, but they were allowed to take war trophies. So after a period of time, it was sorted out and it was determined that it was a war trophy. It was an actual badge. It wasn't a jewelry piece. So he was allowed to keep it, but he had to pay a duty on it from the Internal Revenue Service. And the duty or tax on it was $720, which was a lot of money back then. So he did get to keep it. So now Jason has it. There is a photo of Hermann Goering wearing it in this photograph. I've never seen anything quite like it. It's over the top and very interesting. Here's a photo. I don't want to pick it up. I don't have gloves, but here's a photo of the back of it to show the craftsmanship there. But yeah, thanks Jason for letting us show that. And if you ever want to check out his Jason Burmeister, he's in a lot of the magazines. I don't think he has a website, but you can always email him. His contact is online. It's Jason Burmeister Militaria.
Right now, earlier I mentioned that we have some World War II veterans who are here with us today with Andrew Biggio from the rifle. One of them is Jack Moran. Jack Moran is 100 years old. He was in the 87th Infantry Division, which was the Golden Acorn Division. There's some videos that I posted in the past where we took Jack back to the battlefields around the Ardennes area. And after those episodes ran, buddy Mike Willie, back here, who is on the phone, reached out to me and he said, hey, Mr. Moran, is his first name John by chance? And I was like, well, yeah, it actually is. Here's a pretty cool story. So he had this old trophy helmet from World War II that has all of these different names from men who were in the Golden Acorn Division. One of them is Jack Moran. So anyway, we're going to take this helmet and bring it over to Jack and let him take a look at it and see if he remembers anything from it.
So Jack, as you know, I wanted you to come to this exposition because somebody has had something for over 40 years in their collection that is a part of your journey from World War II, okay? And we have a souvenir German helmet that you signed in 1945, most likely in Germany with the rest of your platoon here. And look at this thing. I bet you're gonna recognize some of these names on here.
I'm sure I will.
Look at, it's Company K,
Yeah.
your company, 347th Regiment.
Yeah, first guy, Alan Woolman, I know it. I knew Alan. Yeah.
You can turn it this way.
Yeah.
His name's on the back too here.
Oh, yeah.
You see your name on there?
It's I think it's this side.
Yeah, Rupert Johnson, knew him. Knew this guy, Duda. Remember Duda? Little short kid. I had about 4 of those on that side.
Do you know the third one down?
Hey, look at that. Wow. I remember Sexton. Moses, I knew Moses. Let's go back here. Yeah, Jack, I knew Jack. I knew Anthony.
Do you remember something like this, or was there a bunch of guys that were made these helmets?
I remember Wellhorn.
Do you remember the day this was painted by any chance?
No. Be hard to say. Be hard to say. Now, I don't know if this has any there's a hint at all as to when this, because if a German wore this on the Rhine, of course, then that would take you all the way up to April 1st, sometime early in April.
Mm-hmm. How about the acorn on there? Isn't that cool?
Yeah, look at that. Belgium. Huh. 1945, yeah.
My dad was in the...
Do you ever think 80 years later you'd be reunited with all the men from your company on a piece of the war, you know?
That's amazing.
That's how bad we wanted you at this show.
Well,
to show you this.
I appreciate that. It's so nice
Oh,
of you.
it was.
Yeah.
Mike's here, so.
Yeah. But look, but most importantly, we've got to pass on to our kids and our next kind of generation what was done to give them the way of life that they're leading, the freedom they have. So many guys died to protect that. And I remember I saw so many 18 and 19-year-old boys lying in the mud in France, lying in the snow in Belgium, lying in the forest of Germany. They all put their lives on the line and lost their lives to give us what we have today. So we've got to thank them and thank them and thank them.
This is the optic, and one of the ones that this is the kind of thing that I collected. Last time I saw one of these was aboard the USS Kidd down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We were shooting, Tom Hanks and I were shooting Greyhound, and it was this kind of thing. And it's really the neat thing about it is this is the view that you get of the enemy right there, right to that sight. So there's a personal business to it. It's not like a sniper scope or a rifle scope. This is the big picture, and you apply leads with these. And of course, I started my career in mortars, so it's all about the solving the gunnery problem.
But isn't that cool? Now I gotta find...
All right, we made you famous.
Now can you tell them I'm buying it?
Oh, we forgot that. Can we do take two?
All right, now, if you've watched these artifact videos for any amount of time, you know what a soft spot I have for signed flags. And this one is exceptionally interesting. So as you can see, this is a Nazi flag that was signed by members of the 29th Division, so 115th Infantry Regiment, 2nd Platoon of Company D. And what makes this exceptionally interesting and unique is that someone in later years went back and basically sewed thread over all of the signatures on the flag. Of all of the signed flags that I've seen, I've never seen anything like this. But yeah, that is really unique. All right, well, I just made my first purchase of the show. I'm always kind of on the lookout for things that are just a little bit different, and I found something that is definitely different. And I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing. My wife is probably going to kill me. All right, well, this is Jeff Schrader's booth, and he always has a lot of World War I artifacts. Here you can see some really cool pieces of trench art, but it's not the trench art that I bought. My stupid butt decided to buy this 9.2 inch howitzer shell fragment that was recovered somewhere in the Ypres salient in World War I. So again, like I said, I like things that are a little bit different and a little bit unique. I don't know where else I'm ever going to see this or find it again. So it's going to make a pretty good teaching tool. But this thing weighs 240 pounds. So moving it around is going to be interesting. Okay, well, that is going to wrap things up for us on day one here at the Show of Shows. But I mean, this place is absolutely massive and you can't do it all in one day. So we're gonna jump back here tomorrow and catch some of the things that we missed right here in Louisville, Kentucky at the Show of Shows.